Hi, good morning. It is Joanne Moore here, and it is a beautiful Sunday in British Columbia. Well, it's raining and blustery, but it's still beautiful out there. So today I want to talk about fear. So I've created or adapted a process. I've taken things that I've learned in all kinds of different places and put them together. And this is a process, one of my favorite processes around fear. And I've used this with clients that are young and old. It started actually with teenagers and kids that I use this process for fears because it's a lot of fun. It's very playful and it gets the job done. So when we start talking about our fears, we want to really know the history of them. So there's 7 steps to this process, to let you know, and all of them are really simple and easy, and they all tie in together. So the number 1 step is around the history of our fear. So where does our fear come from? And it depends on what kind of fear it is, but a lot of us right now, I think, especially in my age group maybe, are dealing with fears around success, things like speaking in public, things like taking a risk on something new, a new adventure, a new job maybe, or moving, anything like that. Even for me, it's around relationships. I definitely have fears around trust, things like that. Okay, so where does our fear come from? So it is a decision made, and then it is reinforced by our brain when it can prove it over and over again. So let's go back. So imagine you're in grade 3. You're asked, you have a project, it's your day to present to the class, you're all excited, you've been working on it all week, you're like 7 years old, you go up to the front of the class, and when you get up there and you have your project in your hand, and you're going to tell everybody how great it is, you forget. You had rehearsed it, and at home you could do it perfectly, but suddenly you kind of forget what you're saying, and you stutter, and you stumble a little bit, and falter, and there's all of a sudden you hear a snicker from the back of the classroom. And then somebody else laughs. Well, the teacher shuts that down immediately, but it's too late. The damage is done. And now all you can think about is that, oh my gosh, I am no good up front. I shouldn't be in the front of the classroom talking. I don't know what I'm doing. Note to self, this doesn't feel very good. Don't do it again. You feel hurt, embarrassed, and fear. So then 2 years later, you're at your birthday party, and it's this big event your mother has done for you, and she insists that you stand up and say thank you to all your friends and the parents who came. Thank you for the gifts, like that. So as you head to the front of the room, you think your brain says, oh, this feels familiar. No, don't do this, don't do this. And you say to yourself, oh, don't be silly, these are my friends. It's going to be fine. And on your way up, you trip over something and fall, and all the kids in the room laugh, and all the parents go, oh, yeah. And your brain says, see, I told you not to do that. There's more proof. Note to self, really, really never do this again. So now a 7-year-old has decided for the rest of your life that you will not speak in public, that it's not safe, it doesn't feel comfortable, and you will be embarrassed, you'll be fearful, and you feel hurt. So that 7-year-old has now implanted a fear. And what happens is your brain is this wonderful mechanism that does what you tell it to do. And it tries to keep us safe. So it will do what it thinks we want it to do in order to keep us safe, because safety is the prime goal. We're human after all. And at some point we were chased by saber-toothed tigers and dinosaurs or whatever, safety issues. And still in the world, there are a lot of places where that comes into play. So our brain, it does exactly what we tell it to do. It does not have a filter system. So it doesn't know the difference. So understanding that your fear is really a mechanism to keep you safe, and it will keep you safe forever if we don't start to recognize it. So step 1, the history of a fear. So just understanding where it comes from kind of can give us a little empathy perhaps for our fears, right? Okay, number 2, fear is not us. We walk around like that 7-year-old decision is actually us, like it's true or something. It's not true. It is a made up thing. We made it up. We made that decision. Our brain reinforced it, but we just made the decision. It's not true. But we walk around like it really is us. So the best thing to do is to get it out of us. This is where the fun part starts to happen. We're going to take that fear and recognize that it's not me. It's not you. It's not us. Give it a separate entity. Now, when I work with clients and we get to this part and I explain what we're going to do next, they kind of get a little excited. It's like, oh, okay. And kids get it right away. They do this fast. Adults, we're a little bit more attached to our fear. We have come to think that that fear is really us for a really long time. So I'm 50, so some of my fears have been around for 48 years maybe, maybe 45 years. Some of them may have only come around and been here for 30 years, but still that's a long time to think of the fear as ourselves. So now we're going to name your dragon. And I love this part. So what we want to do is take the fear out of ourselves and give it an entity. We want to give it a name. Mine is Fred. So we can name it Gertrude, Fred, Henry, Esmeralda, whatever rings true for you. You want to name your fear. You want to give it a personality. You want to be able to picture it or imagine it. And personally, I like the image of a dragon because dragons are fierce and they breathe fire and they're, dominating. Well, my fears have dominated for a long time, so I kind of feel like it's appropriate, right? Our fears are also here to protect us, and that's what dragons do for their own. So I just thought it was really fitting to be a dragon. So name your dragon. Then I want you to start giving it a bit of a personality. So, if your fear is, say, of public speaking, then your dragon might be really bossy about keeping you away from speaking in public. So you might make him a little bossy, or you might give him a personality, whatever you like. Now, as your relationship with your dragon grows, they will take on a new persona. They will start to change. Right now, he feels dominating and fierce and ugly and taking over your life. But as the relationship with you and your dragon grows, he will morph into something completely different. Trust me. Okay, next. So that is number 3. So first is history of a fear. We want to understand where our fears come from. The fear is not us. It's not personal, and it's not true. Number 3. Name your dragon. So I want to know your names of your dragons. And 4 is start a conversation. Now we're going to build a relationship with our fear. Imagine, this is where our imagination comes into play. So imagination and intuition live in the same domain. They live in the same place. So as you start to imagine your conversation with your dragon, it's really your intuition taking over. What comes out of a conversation with your dragon, take it to heart. It's like you're tapping into your higher self. You're tapping into a part of you that wants to speak. It wants to be heard. Just like a 7-year-old, when we ignore a 7-year-old, what do? They yell louder. So that's what's been happening all this time. You're ignoring or fighting against or resisting your fear, and it's yelling louder because its job is to keep you safe. You said, I never want to feel this way again, no matter what the experience was in the first place. And your dragon said, okay, got it, no problem. I will keep you safe. I will keep you away from ever having to feel that way again. And it's done its job very well. But now we want to have a conversation with it. We want to know, you can ask it questions. So if you can sit and imagine, have a cup of tea or a glass of wine, and imagine you're having a conversation with your dragon, ask them, what is your biggest fear of what will happen if I speak in public? Or if I date the nice guy? Or if I am very successful in business? Like, what is your biggest fear that will happen to me? And then wait for the reply. What comes to mind? What are you imagining? Just keep the conversation going for a few minutes and see what happens. You will be surprised at the answers you get. Often the answer is, I love you and I want to keep you safe. And so then you can reply with, I'm not 7 anymore. That isn't going to kill me. Being upset for a little bit is a small price to pay for my dreams and priorities today. So that's number 4, starting a conversation. Number 5 is feeling safe. When we can be in conversation and be in relationship with our dragon, it deflates its power. It's like throwing water on the fire. It literally, you want both of you to feel safe. So your fear, you want to reassure your fear that you're not 7. You have skills and tools, and you've learned a lot since then. And really, if we tested it out together, I could probably speak in public and have a fantastic time. Now, it may be uncomfortable the first couple of times, but you want to make sure that your fear understands that discomfort is not always a bad thing. The minute your fear feels reassured and like you understand it or get it, it will calm down. You're no longer resisting. We all know the phrase, well, most of us know the phrase, what we resist persists. Well, we've been resisting our dragon. We've been fighting our dragon. And now we want to embrace it. You know what? Thank it. I understand that all this time you've been fighting for me, not against me. Now I get it. You're trying to keep me safe. Well, what keeps me safe today is different than what kept me safe when I was 7 or 20 or 40 or whatever age this particular dragon was created, right? Okay, that's number 5. Number 6, setting new ground rules. Okay, this is where our dragon is not going to go away. We will always have made that decision. We can't unmake a decision. But we want to understand that it's no longer driving the car. I think it was Melissa Gilbert that wrote, the author, about your dragon. Yeah, you want to put your fear in the back seat, not let it drive the car anymore. For me, this was like, yeah. When I read that, I was like, oh, she gets it. Yes. So your dragon's not going to go away, but they don't have to yell anymore. They don't have to roar and breathe fire all the time. You can have a conversation, but then you want to make sure that you are now in charge. So your dragon sits in the back. They don't get the map. They don't get to pick the destination. They don't even get to set the GPS. You do. Because you now have new priorities, new dreams, new challenges that you want to conquer, all that kind of stuff. So you set the GPS. You're in charge of the destination. And they get to watch the scenery from the back seat. Okay? Okay. Now, the last step, number 7, is to create a new adventure. So whatever you have been coming up against this fear, so for me, maybe it's success in business, or because I'm not really afraid of public speaking. So it may be around relationships. I do have a big dragon around relationships. So for me, the priority for me now is actually to be in relationship. That's a bigger priority than my fear. So now I want to create a new dragon, but this one is my conscious choosing. I'm consciously choosing my dragon, and I'm going to make them up. So if Fred is my dragon that was living in my fear, I feel like the name Stephen comes to mind. I don't know why. Stephen is my dragon warrior. Like, he's the one that's going to support me. He's going to fly me to new heights. He's going to breathe fire on the obstacles in front of me. He's the one who's going to remind me of where I'm headed. And he's the one who is made up of choices today, not yesterday. Okay? So there are the 7 simple steps about dealing with our fears, and it's one process that I love. And when I work with clients, I get, again and again, I get feedback that it was not only fun, and it really can evolve over time, but it really takes so much of the pressure off. And the dragon loses its power so quickly. The fear loses its power so quickly the minute we stop resisting, the minute we accept it, and that we really understand that our fear is love misguided. It loves us. It's trying to protect us. It's just a little misguided. So let me know in the comments below what you named your dragon and how this went for you, and if this resonates or if you have any questions. Yeah. So have a fantastic day, everybody. I love you. Mwah. Time to name your dragon.